Welcome to the soon-to-be world-famous Serendipity Farmhouse Test Kitchen. This test kitchen is rather in a bit of disarray today. We've had some problems getting set up. You don't need to ask what they are. As usual, Old Fuzzface, messed up again. Today, Executive Chef Blondie and I, her humble sous chef, will be exploring the rich culinary history of the Azores. We'll be focusing on a traditional and a frugal dish, Azorean-style bean soup with linguiça. Come join us as we explore this wonderful dish. Let me tell you the story behind this dish, or at least one small part of the story. In 1903, my dad's parents emigrated from San Miguel in the Azores to Massachusetts. They didn't bring much with them, and when they got here, they had to start from scratch. But my grandmother did bring one very important thing with her. That was her skill cooking traditional Azorean dishes. My grandfather died young, and my dad had to become the head of the household, and that was in the late 1920s. I learned through my cousin what types of meals my grandmother made for my dad and the household. This bean soup we're preparing today is an example of what my grandmother made back in those days. We think you'll enjoy this bean soup because of its heartiness and ease of preparation. And we're also going to add, as Old Fuzzface, even though I mess up quite often, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it practical. And we're going to enjoy the time we have cooking. Okay, and now it's time to introduce you to the ingredients. In fact, I'll introduce the ingredients to you. Audience, these are the ingredients. Ingredients, there's the audience. Okay, now that you've met, let's go over a little bit about the whole cast here. For this particular bean soup, the star is the linguiça sausage. Now this sausage right here is some we made a few months back, and you may have seen the video about it. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have the opportunity to smoke it, so we're going to add an extra ingredient. It's not a mystery. We're going to add some smoky paprika. That'll add the smoke flavor and will enhance the overall flavor. Now, many of the recipes talk about using dried red kidney beans or other types of beans like pinto beans. We chose Great Northerns, and later on in the video, you'll see the story about where they came from. Of course, we're going to have some onion. And what would a Azorean dish be without a little bit of garlic? Maybe a lot of garlic. It depends on what you like. We're going to have some carrots, maybe not that many, but a few. Add colors and add some flavor. And of course, some potatoes right here. Chicken broth or beef broth, we've chosen chicken broth. We're going to have some, there they are, the diced tomatoes. Bay leaves for a little bit of flavor. Please remember to take them out when everything is complete. Salt. In this case, we're using some Redmond sea salt. And freshly ground black pepper with Chef Blondie's favorite pepper grinder. Extra virgin olive oil. And we would like to use some fresh parsley for garnish. We don't have any. Quite often, we just don't have things around when we need them to do a filming. So bear with us. We can put some dry parsley on there and pretend that it's fresh. Anyway, now that you've met the ingredients and the ingredients have met you, now the ingredients are going to meet each other, and they're going to become a great bean soup. Well, look at that. Those are Great Northern beans that were dry canned in December of 2012. Those beans have come a long way. I received them in Idaho from a friend, and he got them from a friend in Nebraska where they were grown. Now we dry can them, and just a couple of months ago we opened up this jar and we used some of these beans in an Instant Pot meal. They were great, they still work, but we noticed that we have to soak them longer. So we're going to get started on that right away. We're going to first of all clean them, make sure there's no field stuff in them, and then put them in to soak overnight, and then tomorrow we'll use them. So now the first thing we do is make sure we clean them off. So we're going to rinse them. We have a cup and a half of the Great Northern beans. Still look pretty good. One of the reasons behind doing this particular meal is to get an idea of what frugal cooking can look like. And there's probably nothing more frugal than using some beans that you got for free and that you dry canned, and now finally you have a use for them. I'm just a sous chef, so sometimes I don't make mistakes, I just don't think. Always, always listen to the executive chef. Heat some olive oil in a large pot over medium heat. Add the linguiça and cook until brown. Once done, remove the sausage and set it aside. In the same pot, sauté the chopped onions and minced garlic until they are soft and fragrant. Add the diced carrots and potatoes, continuing to sauté until they begin to soften. Now, add the soaked beans. Add 4 cups of chicken or beef broth. Add 1 can of diced tomatoes. Add the browned linguiça. Add 2 bay leaves. Add smoked paprika to taste. Season with freshly ground black pepper and salt. Bring the mixture to a boil. Lesson learned number 2. For large recipes like this, make sure you have a pot big enough to hold all the ingredients comfortably. Based on my almost disastrous failure to think ahead, Executive Chef Blondie decided to purchase a much larger Dutch oven today. Beforehand, we know that because those beans were so old, that these beans are probably still, oh, it sure does look good. Beans are probably still a little bit hard, but let's see what the flavor is like. Well, here we are. It's truth or consequences, I guess. It's tasting time. Learned a few lessons. Well, actually, I relearned the lesson that I always should listen to my executive chef. She has some very good advice, and I'm just a sous chef, so sometimes I don't make mistakes, I just don't think. But anyway, it looks good. In the amount of time that we were taking for the beans to fully cook, or at least try to fully cook, I managed to put up a new clothesline for my dear, beautiful, wonderful spouse. Lesson learned number 3. Remember, cooking beans always takes longer than you expect. You want to cut the time preparing this recipe, either pre-cook the beans or use canned beans. Now I'm back in here, washed my hands, and it's time to eat. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm guessing, but let's try. Well, the color is good. It looks like a soup. It looks like what I remember as a kid. First of all, the flavor of the linguiça is there in totally throughout all of the, I mean, it's a flavor that just comes right through. The beans were actually soft, at least soft for me. Let me try a piece of the linguiça itself. There it is. There's that flavor of the islands that I'll never forget. It's going to be a good supper tonight. The only thing that's missing is a good loaf of crusty bread. Wasn't able to make any of my sourdough bread this week, but in the future, I hope to make some good, what's called Portuguese homemade bread. We'll see how that works. I hope I'm up to it.
Okay. It's very hot.
And there you have it. A simple, hearty, and frugal Azorean-style bean soup with linguiça, just like they made in San Miguel in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Enjoy. As you may have noticed, this video, in filming it, was a little rough. We started out by saying that things were hectic and upside down. Part of the reason is, as you remember, I talked about my dad losing his parents. Of course, along the way, Chef Blondie and I have lost our parents. Well, this last week, my daughter lost her mother-in-law. And so we're praying for Ruth, and we're praying for the whole family. So Ruth, we're praying for you. And kids, we're praying for you too. We love you.